If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Today's chat's been brought to you by International Horse College. International Horse College's motto is people safety and horse welfare, and you'll find this message throughout our chats. Registered Training Organisation number 31352. Our guest today on Horse Chats is Sidney Roberts. We could talk about Sidney being on the gold medal winning team for the Australian Youth Olympics. She was born in South Africa and came to Australia as a 6-year-old. But what I'd like to ask Sidney is, she was a horse riding double for Nicole Kidman in the movie Australia. And when I saw that movie, I was a bit impressed with Nicole's riding. I thought she was, for a movie star, she was a good rider. And now I find out that Sidney was the double for her. So, Sidney, how are you today?
Well, thank you, Glenys. How are you?
Well, I'm well, but I'm a bit disappointed now in Nicole because now I find out that you were the double for her and we already knew that you could ride.
Oh, that's too funny. Oh, thanks for the compliment. It turns out I actually did all the reshooting in the film, at Fox Studios, because I was actually living in the UK at the time when they were calling for someone to replace or to sit in as Nicole's riding double. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't get back in time for when the movie started. So they used another girl stepped in and was doing the job and travelled around, but then they needed someone to fill in and do all the reshooting. So that's when I stepped in and I did all that because she was unable to fit the position at that time.
Yep. Good. Now, Sidney, you know that we start off with a favourite quote. Tell us about your favourite quote, what you've got for us today.
Okay, my favourite quote would have to be, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
All right. Now, is that one that you've had for a long time that you've got from your parents or something that's been a bit more recent?
No, more recent. It's one of my partner's favourite sayings, and I think it's really resonated with me because I think it's easy to stand on the sideline and watch someone else in any industry or profession to think, oh, they're lucky to be at the top, or they don't really think about how they got there and all the time and effort that it's taken to actually get to that point, whether it's in business or sports or anything like that. I think to be consistent and at a high level, you need to be working hard and put in the effort, and there's no question about it.
And sometimes it happens before you get lucky. You talk about people being an overnight success, but sometimes for them to be an overnight success, it's what they've been doing in the last 20 years or 10 years that makes them that overnight success.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they've also got to keep it up as well.
Yep. Now, Sidney, you've got a background with horses. Is that right? Your father's a vet, your mother's a show jumper?
Yes, that's correct, Glenys. Well, that's how they met. Mum had a horse with a broken jaw. She was about 17 years old in Adelaide, actually, and she called out the vet to come and fix her horse, and the vet happened to be my father. And they moved to South Africa, and, that was the end of that, really. Yep. 4 children later.
Now, Sidney, thinking about lessons with horses and how you became so knowledgeable and such a good rider, think about a time early when you had a memory with horses and something you would have learned from that.
Oh, I think I would have to say I worked a lot with a fellow named Steve Gladstone, and he was one of my main mentors growing up with horses. And he taught me that, you've got to spend so much time with a horse to be able to connect with it and actually build a bond with it, and to develop a to develop a bond with it and then to achieve results with the horse, basically. And I think he always said to me, the 3 S's, very important. First, submission, straightness, and then suppleness. And the 3 S's have just always stuck with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about when you first started riding? You know, you've got the 3 S's. What about riding-wise? Have you got an early memory there?
Yeah, when we were little in South Africa, we used to nag the staff who worked for my parents to saddle up the horses, and we had this one saddle that was like a throne. It was a chair on a saddle that they used to strap to the horses, and so every day we would just nag the staff, and they used to just get so annoyed with us. But finally, they'd get the ponies out and strap this chair on and walk us around like we were little princesses. It was that was a really amazing memory to have, I think, and my sisters too got to experience that.
That's good, isn't it? How old were you then?
Oh, I must have been about 4 or 5 years old.
Yep. All right. Now, starting off, because you've done quite well, we've already talked about you being on the gold medal winning team for the Australian Youth Olympics. What made you think from going, riding around and just being sort of led around by the staff or by someone to going on and becoming a show jumper? What made you choose that career path, choose that? Did you sort of fall into it because of your mother, or was there an actual decision on your part?
I think it was obviously influenced by my mother because she was a show jumper. She didn't like the whole hacking thing because she thought it was a waste of time, just going in, around and out. And we always had very naughty ponies, so our ponies didn't just stand in line or anything like that. So we weren't in contention for any ribbons or anything like that. So I think also being just the sport itself, there's no, it's not subjective. So if you have a rail, you have a rail. Everyone sees it. If you have time results, it's up on the board. People can see that as well. So I think if you win, you win, and it's fair. It's a fair game. Like growing up, we did everything. Mum and Dad took us to pony clubs, and so we did state equitation, show jumping. My sister and I were, we received champion age groups for our age groups and things like that through equitation, show jumping, end of year jamboree. We did eventing, all of that stuff. But I think just having show jumping being sort of not subjective really drew me to that. And it's also very technical and challenging, which I must say I do love a challenge.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Now, if you were teaching someone, and you had a young rider there that says, no, I want to go up and, win gold at the Olympics in show jumping. So thinking about the core skills and character traits of someone not just working in the horse career, but specifically for a show jumper, what do you think they need?
I think, first of all, you've got to have the love of it, the love for it.
Yep.
Dedication, passion, a really good work ethic. Also because, life's so busy and you need to fit in all this other stuff as well, but your training can't take a back seat at all. You can't be a part-time rider.
Yep.
You've got to be tough and strong, have a seriously can-do attitude, and also have resilience to any negativity that might come up, whether it be other competitors, family members of other competitors. I think it's just even sort of the ups and downs of having horses, injuries and that sort of thing. You've just got to deal with the situation and just be positive and move on and just sort of just go with it and just make the next thing happen.
Yeah. What do you think's the best thing about working with horses, riding, being in the industry?
Well, I guess getting to work with such incredible animals as a start, building a bond with such a big animal and having them do what you ask them to do is pretty special. Having an active lifestyle that it provides, sort of being out on the farm, also travelling around, getting to see so many different places, having the opportunities to travel overseas doing it, meeting so many amazing and influential people as well, has been a big thing for me in the sport.
Yep.
And, there's just so many. I could keep going on and on about it, but it provides a nice, healthy lifestyle as well.
Yes. Okay. Now, you talked earlier on about Steve Gladstone. Is there anyone else that you'd like to mention that's really influenced you and helped you in your career?
Yeah, Steve Gladstone and Charlotte Inglis were my very first sort of coaches in Australia, and who I've had a lot to do with. And I think Charlotte was a very competitive rider back in the day when she was training me. And she's one very strong, tough and amazing woman. I think even events that have happened in her life I've always just gone back to thinking, well, Charlotte would just keep going on. She's touched my heart in so many ways. And I think her toughness has just helped me get through a lot of the ups and downs that can happen with horses. Okay.
That's good.
And life as well, I guess.
Yeah, but, you can't just have one without the other, can you? You've got to have horses and life, and there's other things outside of horses that influence the horses.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I've been pretty lucky to have... I've got so many other amazing people that have been in my life, but they were the very two to start with in the sort of in the horse industry, yeah.
What about horses? Have you got a special horse?
Oh, I've got, you can't single one out, I guess, but...
It's hard, yeah.
They've all got their own little characters and personalities, and I have this one at the moment called Gracie Lou, and she's by Beluga, who the Chugs own. And every time I go up to her and I just talk to her, she does a little squeal, or I touch her, she'll squeal. Or so that little personalities like that are pretty endearing.
Yep.
But one horse that really probably touched my heart was a horse of mine called Edward, and I got him because no one could ride him, and a coach at the time said, "Oh, Sidney, he's just sitting in a paddock, not doing anything. Do you want to come and have a look at him?" So I went and had a look at him. Hopped on him, tried to jump a few cross rails. He was just not there in the head, and I love a challenge. So I said I'll take him, and I did, and sort of changed his feet a lot, trying to get that right to see if I could connect with him, and if he was just getting too much feed and not being able to just focus properly.
Yeah.
And so cleaned all the hot feed out of him, and then started to take him to jump clubs and doing a lot of work one-on-one. I think he was a very one-on-one horse.
Yep.
Where he had always been a number in a yard, and he didn't cope with that. And I think that was the main problem. And then over the years, I built a really strong bond with him, and he just got better and better. And then I did a few World Cup events with him. He had a few rails here and there, but then took him in the Gold Series at the Polo Fields, and he had a clear round. And that was, I think, the biggest moment for me with that horse, because I knew if I had him at a younger age, I think we would have gone a lot further. And his progression, that's why I love doing it, seeing the progression in the horse, feeling that progression, and it's just an amazing feeling. So I think that was pretty special for me. But then I was getting ready to go down to the Victorian run to do the next series of World Cups, and I took him down to the beach one day because he just loved galloping on the beach. And then I just let him go because I could feel he wanted to go. So I thought, okay, we're going to Victoria in a couple of weeks. Just take it easy. I just had that thought in my head.
Yeah.
And then he just went. And I've ridden some Melbourne Cup runners, like galloped them and everything, and he was the fastest, strongest horse I have ever sat on. And he went, and it's, a couple of 100 metres, maybe got to about half a kilometre, and I thought, okay, that's enough, Eddie, take it easy. And I went to pull him up, and as I went to pull him up, I just felt him stumbling, and then my feet just hit the ground. It was just an incredible feeling, and then I jumped off him and I started stripping all the gear off him and started screaming at him and yelling at him to get up. And I kind of knew in my heart that what was actually happening. And he started convulsing, and then he just went. His head just dropped. And it was like he almost put me on the ground, because he could have easily just slipped over.
Sure.
And just flipped on top of me. But that feeling, you hear people talk about stories like that and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. But until it happens to you, it's a pretty unbelievable experience, and you can't come to terms with it until it sort of happened to you. So then, that was pretty heartbreaking. But he had obviously had an aneurysm or something, and so. But for me to come to terms with that, I would rather him have gone on the beach than turning up to the paddock one day and finding him there. So, I mean, that was a special moment for me when I think about it like that.
I was going to say, you've had lots of moments that a lot of people wouldn't have. The connection that you had with Edward, even going and having that sort of World Cup clear round. But then you've had other moments too, being on that gold medal winning team, representing your country overseas. We haven't even talked about that yet. Would you like to just go over that a little bit and say how that came about?
Yeah, so first of all, when I was 17, we got selected to compete for Australia in the Youth Olympic Festival. And that was a pretty amazing experience because my coach was Jamie Coleman.
Yep.
And so in my team was Sheridan Manuel, Hayley Coleman and Anna McGregor. And there were so many horses put in a pool, and then you selected a horse. Well, they had a meeting, they selected horses out of a hat, and they were then allocated to the teams. So you weren't allowed to actually ride your own horse in the event. But I think having the whole experience there with all our teammates, and then actually living in a village with all the other countries and other sports as well, other athletes, that was a pretty fun experience. And it was and even competing at Horsley Park, where the Olympics was held. So, I mean, Horsley Park has I've had a few moments there, pretty special moments there, I guess. Yeah. I was selected to open Horsley Park with Gillian Rolton before the Olympics. Yeah, so we got to jump around all the jumps before they were actually used. And so as a junior, I've had some pretty amazing experiences like that.
Yep. And
then end of 2005, I was selected to head over to India to compete in the youth series, and was over there with Danielle and Greer Butcher.
Yes.
And that was a similar thing to the Youth Olympics. So obviously we couldn't take our own horses over there, so horses were selected for our team. And, it was a number of events there that we competed in, and overall we received bronze.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
well done.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of your proudest moment. Have you got one proud moment that you could pull out above all the others?
Proud moment? I think the proudest moment would have to have been getting a clear round in the Gold Series on Eddie.
Okay.
That wasn't my proudest moment because of the ups and downs I've been through with that horse. I think just getting to that point was just a point where you're actually getting somewhere.
Yep.
And it was just pretty exciting, and yeah.
Good. Thinking about the young and up-and-coming show jumpers, that might be looking to you as a role model, what do you think's been your biggest challenge on your way to being where you are now? How have you overcome it, but turn it into a lesson so that anyone listening could learn from that?
Okay. I guess my biggest lesson to up-and-coming show jumpers would be that first of all, the sport takes a lot of time, effort and money.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've really got to be dedicated to want to do it at a high level, because if you want to be at a high level in show jumping, even dressage or eventing, you've got to be really dedicated and you've got to do it full time. So
yeah,
and really put in a lot of effort and have a lot of horses coming up through the grades. So at least you have some horses to fall back on if your top horses don't make it or they get injured, because that, being realistic, these things happen. You're travelling horses in trucks and floats, and horses injure themselves. We all know that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you basically always have to have a backup plan. And if you want to stay sort of competitive in the sport. And I mean, it is easy for some people to go and buy those horses that are already educated, but you don't need to have a lot of money to go and buy those horses if you put in the time and effort and get the coaching and train. And obviously it's important to have a feel for it as well.
Yes.
But that's why I like getting young horses and getting them going, like producing them myself and getting them going. And it's really nice to have my partner as well, who's quite keen into the sport as well. And we spend a lot of time together sort of educating horses and also swapping horses as well. So we both get a feel for them and understand how each horse works and also feel their progression as well.
Okay, good.
As you go from show to show, and yeah.
All right. So a lesson for people coming on is to have patience and put the time in and learn to love training your horse, so that people are happy to get the young horses and not necessarily think that they've got to be buying horses that have already been produced at a top level. Would that be a good lesson for them?
Yeah, I think it would be. Okay. And I think it's also important to listen to very experienced people as well. And I mean, you might not like everything they say, but I think I've learned lessons from everyone that I've dealt with, whether it's been good or bad. And with my students as well, I encourage them to go get lessons from other coaches as well, because I think that people phrase things differently and can click with some people and other things may click with others,
Yep.
So
yep.
I encourage them to do that, because you learn a lesson from everyone, I think.
What's a common fault that you see? Maybe a rider, you see it more often, riders that you haven't seen before if you go to do a clinic, or maybe if you're at a competition, a common fault that you see show jumpers do that if you could fix it, they would perform better, their horses would perform better.
Okay. Probably worrying. A big fault I see is a lot of young kids worry about what everyone else is doing instead of just worrying about themselves and their horse, like their actual team. And it shouldn't really matter what everyone else is doing or what other kids are wearing. If you want to do the sport, and you don't need to look like everyone else, you don't need to wear the same gear as everyone else. And I don't think that, I think it's important that you don't let that affect you.
Yep.
And just be really focused on yourself and worry about yourself. I think that comes into life in general as well. I think if you want to be successful, you need to just do what you want to do within reason, and not let anyone put you down.
Okay.
Actually.
Is it not let everyone put you down, or maybe not take any notice of it when people put you down? Because you'll always get people that are always going to have something negative to say, but it's how it affects you, isn't it? If it affects you negatively. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just got to let things go. Not let things affect you. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now. Have a look. horsechats.com. What about books, Sidney? A book that you could recommend to our listeners, something that might have helped you along the way, something that might have influenced you? What could you recommend them just to complement their training?
Yeah, I think a book that I found very useful is a book by Anthony Pullman, and it's called Training Show Jumpers.
Yep.
And it's a useful guide that helps sort of you understand the whole process of training a lasting show jumper, because obviously you can do things that can damage your horse's knees and legs and stuff. So you want to prevent all that. You want to really just not wrap them up in cotton wool, but you want to protect them through their career.
Yep.
And also a very big thing is to keep their confidence levels up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that would be my number one book, I think.
Good. And I think that's certainly one that's been recommended before. So it's a popular book. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Now, Sidney, what are you looking forward to now? You've got a couple of young horses you're bringing on. What does the future hold?
Yeah, well, we've got 60 horses up here.
Okay.
And they're brood mares, and my partner and his brother have been breeding them for a number of years now. Mm-hmm. I've got 6 horses up here and 2 on the way. And so I think just having that young stock coming through, then we've got a few that need to be broken in. Obviously, the constant breaking in every year and getting the young ones going and then moving them to the next level kind of thing. So we've got them, they range, from mares in foal to performance horses, which are 11, 12 years old. So we've got the whole range there. And so you're hopping on the young ones, doing all the hard work, I guess, getting thrown around and stuff like that, to then riding the educated ones that are a more pleasant ride for you. So, so just that's what we've got on at the moment, and then getting to competitions and getting them out.
Sounds like you've got busy days. Yeah.
Yeah, they're fairly busy. And I think with horses, you've also got to realise that it's like deja vu every day. Like yes. I'm a big one that loves ticking boxes, and it's like every day that whole list, the boxes, the ticks just get wiped out of the boxes.
Okay. All right. Now, just thinking about your philosophy with horses, which we've seen through the chat that we've had, but if you'd like to sum up in just a couple of sentences so people have got something that they can remember in those couple of sentences.
Okay. My philosophy would be that you've got to love dealing with horses. You've got to love the lifestyle, put in time, effort, dedication, and just enjoy it, because it's a pretty incredible and amazing experience to be a part of. Yep.
All right, that's good. Now, Sidney, how can people contact you?
If you'd like to contact me, you can email me.
Yep.
At Sidney Jane Roberts, SidneyJaneRoberts @gmail.com.
All right.
Do people put their mobile number down? Or
yeah, you could say your mobile, Sidney. What we'll do is we'll have those details on horsechats.com/Sidney Roberts, or just go to horsechats.com, search for Sidney or search for Roberts. But if you'd like to say your mobile, that'd be brilliant.
Okay. And my mobile number is 0488 004433.
That's a cool number. Where'd you get that one? Did you actually put in a special request, or you just got it anyway?
No, I had to put in a special request for that one.
Okay, then. All right. Look, good to talk to you today. Yeah, I think lots of insights, lots of things that you're doing, and I still will have to go back and watch that Australia movie and see if I can see where you are and where it's Nicole Kidman and where it's the other person. So I'll have to separate those three. So good.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, good to talk to you, and hopefully we'll catch up again with you sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Glenys.
If you've enjoyed this chat, then please comment, rate and subscribe. If you'd like any changes or recommendations for guests, then please contact us through horsechats.com. And while you're online, have a look at the government accredited courses at internationalhorsecollege.com. Registered Training Organisation 31352.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.